Welcome to the review of Amulet of Yendor, or sometimes referred to as Yendor's Castle. The game was created by Keypunch software and released in 1985. The purpose of the game is to collect an orb of power which has been created by an elven wizard named Yendor. It's a dungeon crawler game and it's only text. Here's some magic spells, which there's only 3, Web, Fireball, and Death Spell. It lists some of the treasures you can find, as well as curses. And there's 12 different types of monsters in the game. They all attack the same way, they're just either have higher hit points or higher damage. There's also the concept of vendors, which are basically merchants that sell items to you. The first thing to do is create a new character. And right off the bat we can see the game's really picky and annoying. You have to actually use a capital letter. Once you choose your race, then you choose how many points you want to add to each attribute: strength, intelligence, and dexterity. Simply type in a number, which we put 8 into intelligence. And then you have 60 gold pieces to spend. So you can buy some armor, weapons, or a special item, which we'll show in a second. So I chose plate mail, and for our weapon, dagger. Here's the special item. Do you want to buy a lamp for 20 gold pieces? Okay, elf, you enter the castle. At the top of the screen, you'll notice it shows your weapon, armor, and if you have a lamp. You can type help to get a list of the available commands, since it doesn't list them to you on the main screen. The game's filled with annoyances. Like here we say north and it says, do you want to leave the castle? No, we just started the game. Let's go south. We're warped into an empty room. At the bottom of the screen, you'll notice that it shows little text items and even insults at the top. Hey bright one, you're out of flares, as we tried to use a flare. So we just type the direction, we go west again, and here we find our first enemy. Strength is basically your hit points, so we only have 3 hit points left. So we're going to try attacking, just to show you combat. Here we're fighting a lousy wolf. Yeah, pretty cheesy. Everything in the game is called lousy. You just keep typing attack. Here we kill the wolf and we get his hoard of 903 gold pieces. But the worst thing about this game is dexterity is the only thing that matters. Here I'm playing as a character with a dexterity of 18, and which is as high as it'll go. And you'll notice you can just keep attacking. Here we're attacking a Balrog, which you would think would be a copyright infringement, but this game was made on the cheap anyway. So anyway, we're fighting this Balrog, and we finally kill him because our dexterity is so high. One thing that can happen to you is you can actually break your dagger or your weapon if you're fighting a gargoyle or a dragon, and then you have to use the escape command to run away. Here we cast a web spell, which all that it does is entangle the enemy, prevents it from attacking. There's also a fireball spell, which does damage. And incidentally, you only get to cast 1 spell per combat. And then there's something called Death Spell, which either kills the enemy or kills you, based on whoever has higher intelligence. Here, our intelligence was higher, so we won. Pretty cheesy, huh? I like the little dashes after death, like it's making you wait. Here is what happens when you die. You died from lack of strength. When you died, you had blah blah blah, and it took you 5 turns. So let's start a new character, choose a different race, and okay, dwarf. It's almost like an insult the way he calls you by your race. Okay, dwarf. Really, the race has no impact whatsoever. Another cheesy thing about the game is there's this lamp that has an infinite number of uses, and it allows you to basically spy any room next to you, and you can use it forever. So if you have the lamp, you can just cheat the whole game and only go the directions that have good items or stairs so that you can find the orb. You can also find books which you can open, which will improve abilities, and you can find the vendors. Here we tried to trade and we're too poor. Here we found an opal eye, which is a treasure. You can find things like a crystal orb or even some gold pieces. When you're at a pool, you can drink. Here we feel smarter. Another time we feel dumber. Go figure. So here we have some money to trade with the vendor. First he asks if we want to sell this Norn stone we have. So we say yes. And you'll notice the graphics doesn't even clear on the screen. It gets real messy. You start typing over text. You'd think at least they'd be able to clear the screen. And yes, every once in a while you get that really annoying loud sound like that. You see how much of a mess the screen is right now? I don't even really know where I'm supposed to be typing. I'm supposed to be providing a choice, but I'm confused as to what to do. So I type north and it says, you want to buy a potion of strength? Okay, sure. So it increased my strength. Potions are as common as muck in this game. You can just keep buying them over and over, even the same types from a vendor, as long as you have money. Takes the fun out of the game. And here's another weird thing. I said lamp and it says, nice shot, human. What the heck is that supposed to mean? There's a concept in the game called a flare. Once you use a flare, you can then type the map command, and it shows you for not even probably a tenth of a second the map. So you have to keep typing it over and over to try to see it. Here we opened a book and we're blinded. But who cares? It's a text-only game. The blindness has no impact on you. And here's a treasure chest. We open it and it says nothing. Okay, let's try another one. Maybe it was... No glitch. Finally we open a chest and something does happen. It explodes! Yeah, very cheesy. So then there's some stairs. You can go up or down, trying to find your way to the orb. There's also sinkholes which can push you down. And actually, we just went from level 8 to level 1. How in the hell does that happen? Level 8's the deepest, and level 1's where you start. So evidently you can go so deep you magically float back to the top. Then finally there's this concept of this orb, if you find it, this orb of gazing. You gaze into it, and it just gives you this nonsense. Here it tells us there's an item there, but it may be lying. And here you see yourself in a bloody heap. This game is just pathetic. Even though this game came sold with a collection of 3 other games for $10, it's not even worth that. Even in today's times, it's not even worth $1. It's just a piece of junk. So that wraps up the review of Amulet of Yendor. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.